Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 48 of Nostalgia Talk. I'm James, and I don't know if any of you guys heard that, but there was a little fanfare there. So joining me today is a man of many talents as a puppeteer, actor, and voice actor, Bruce Lanoil.
Yeah. Hi, James. Long time no do. And I apologize because you asked me long ago. In fact, you almost honored me with the fact, come be my first guest. But at that point, I wasn't ready to talk about the past. I had some things to work out. And now I'm opening my heart to you and everybody else because, boy, I mean, I'm so grateful to have the journey that I've had. And you're just starting your journey creatively. And this is the time to talk about the positives and how great it can be.
Yeah. For any of the listeners who are not aware, a lot of my friends are probably aware of this when I started Nostalgia Talk, because like when I started this show, only my friends were aware of it. I was like, hey guys, I want to start a podcast and a talk show kind of a thing. And they're like, oh, who would you want to talk to? And Bruce was definitely on that list because because he's just such a cool guy. We've been communicating online. We've been communicating online for a long time. So when I started, I did invite him, and he said, "Let me see where this goes," which I understand, a very reasonable thing. And now here we are, episode number 48, 2 shows away from episode number 50. And now I can finally say, Bruce, welcome to Nostalgia Talk.
Thank you. It's good to be here, and I'm honored and privileged. And let's talk.
All right. Now, for any of the listeners who don't know who Bruce is, as I said right before I said his name, he's a puppeteer, voice actor, and actor. His work as a puppeteer can be seen on the Muppets, on TV and Muppet movies, and for the Jim Henson Company, doing Jim Henson's Creature Shop films such as Jack Frost, Dr. Dolittle, Cats and Dogs, and probably many others that I'm probably forgetting.
No worries.
He was in Looney Tunes Back in Action and is voice match for Nathan Lane as Timon in the Disney Kingdom Hearts video games.
Yes.
All right, so you have to excuse me there. I'm just getting over a little bit of a cold, so I have a little bit of a blocked nose. It's not COVID.
Is that right? I always have to say, not COVID.
I had COVID in May, and on the series that I work on, I get tested regularly. So far it hasn't. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So far it hasn't come back positive, which is lucky. So
great. No, you're not carrying it, and hopefully there's some sort of thing we've gone through as a country, and perhaps less people will get sick and go to hospital. Yeah. So I'm glad you're well, and I'm glad you're doing the things you love.
Thank you very much. All right, so let's begin by talking a little bit about what got you interested in acting.
Acting.
Yeah, because you're kind of like a jack of all trades when it comes to an actor. Like I've seen you on screen showing your face. I've heard your voice in cartoons, and I've seen you wiggle puppets on TV and movies.
Frankly, I think most actors do not specialize. I mean, you have a performance tool, which is your body and your mind. All right, and then you want to tell stories, portray characters, work with others to do that together, and therefore, however it takes, if it takes a puppet, if it takes animation, if it takes the human body to tell the story that's on the page, that's what an actor does. Where do you need my skills? I will adapt my skills to you. And so that's the give and take of creativity, which you're finding out. And all the departments that also support the on camera and the camera itself, the focal point, is crucial in telling the story. Sometimes even more so. How would all the Spielberg movies without John Williams sound, and Star Wars, without that amazing rhythms and the cinematography of some of the nonverbal things that happen, show me, don't tell me type of thing. It's the same with puppets as well. The silences. Just watching Kermit ruminate and feel things, we're just drawn into it. It doesn't matter who it does matter who it is and who is inside the puppet, or who is the person whose eyes can let you into their soul, and then you just love that character. And once you love a character, which is the whole point of what you do in Nostalgia Talk, that's what people go to when times are tough, when things don't have any rhyme or reason. They go to the things that made them feel comfortable and safe. And they're your friends for life, aren't they? And you can forgive them almost anything, because because you let them into your heart. And more as I get older and I understand the scope of what I've done and didn't do, the honor and privilege of being in people's hearts and being a friend of theirs by playing a character that they feel is important to them, that is a friend, it's just as real as anything else of this life. There's so many levels of life. So being a fan and being a part of people's lives that you don't even realize is amazing. And we get more interconnected with the you know, the comms and the people meeting and saying, you don't know what that meant to me. And I've had people through my life and say, you know, you've meant so much to me. It just takes your breath away, you know? And it's just a wonderful way of living life. It's not in a straight line. It's not easy. We all kind of go up and down and we forget how we affect each other.
That's lovely. And that's very true because I think I mentioned this to you that in March I met Steve Whitmire through
one of the greatest people in my life. I mean, he's my brother. You know, I was his sister in Dinosaurs. I mean, forever we'll be family.
That took me a little while there.
I was his little sister. I was his annoying little sister, and he was my know-it-all big brother. But Steve is one of my great mentors in my life. You know, the way he comported himself, the way his tenure with Kermit was pristine. The way he dealt with anybody who talked to him. His Kermit is my friend. Kermit is my friend through Steve and through Matt. I didn't meet Jim's Kermit. I did meet Jim once. I did the 3D movie. That was my first thing and last thing I did with Jim. So I was there with a lot of puppeteers, and you know, he was bigger than life. But I've been friends with Kermit for 40 years. Isn't that crazy?
Holy crap! Wow.
I know Kermit and Kermit knows me, and that's a forever thing. And when I'm around Kermit, or I do Kermit's arms during the movie, and the finale of the film, you know, the reboot film, they did
the one with Jason Segel.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
The finale was on Hollywood Boulevard. It was at 3 a.m, and I was on my back on the skateboard, basically, with my hands up in the air, and in my hands were the rods of Kermit's hands. And as all the men came forward, you know, doing that number, I was rolling in front of them, doing the choreography of Kermit's hands on my back at 2 a.m. on Hollywood Boulevard. And there was no other place I'd rather be in my life, because it was the most, I mean, that show business is like, are you kidding me moment. It was amazing. So I've gotten to do things that have just been like, if you weren't there to see it, how do you know it happened? Because with puppeteering, they're not showing, you know, the behind the scenes all the time. So
yeah, that seems to be the big misconception with it, because when I tell people that I know people like Steve and Matt and Peter Linz and Marty Robinson and Leslie Carrera and a couple of others, and I tell them what it is that they do, like I'll list the characters and I'll describe them best as a puppeteer, because that's what you guys are. And they're like, oh, do they do the voice too? That seems to be the biggest misconception out there. Who does the voice?
Yeah, I guess maybe the general public doesn't understand. I kind of think we've adopted performer. They're the performer of the character. So therefore you go, oh, then maybe you did the voice too. So I think going forward, Muppet performer is how we are couched right now. And that kind of sums it up. It's just like, what does it take? Sure, there's right hands and then full body. There's more people wearing green suits. You know, sometimes Kermit needs 3 or 4 people to do a beautiful choreography moment. Which we did that on the Hollywood Bowl show, which I got to do, which is one of the greatest moments of my performance life.
Yeah, I really wanted to make it out.
I wish
there
you were
for that.
there. Oh, it was, you know, we hopefully we'll go to the bowl again. You know,
okay.
I can't see it not happening, but that show.
Yeah, like it looked like quite the success from what I saw online.
Oh, and the love, because you know it was the depths of a lot of doubt in the country. Everybody was angry. There was so much going on, but with those 3 shows, everybody was. It was like whatever your religion was, we were the religion of Muppets, and we were all there. The people who wanted to tell their kids what Muppets really were, they brought the kids, and generations were together, and there was fireworks. And at the end, I'm standing there, I'm in the Swedish Chef, and there's Paul Williams right next to me and Kermit right next to him, and we're singing Rainbow Connection.
Crap.
And I'm standing there in front of the audience. And I mean, I just try not to cry and just trying not to, I mean, it was, and the faces of people and the lights from the, it was, I mean, you just,
It doesn't get better than that.
No. So, I mean, how blessed, how fantastic that this franchise is still going on and carrying the torch, even if it's a right hand, and God, that's not a small thing, but what an honor and a privilege to keep something so loving and so open for others and for others going forward. It becomes more than just a job, obviously, and more than just a gig, and more than just about your career. It becomes like, what are you saying, and what are you a part of, and what are you here for? And it feels bigger and more important. So yeah.
So how did you become involved in this franchise that has become so bigger and so
I know,
grand?
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I was an actor, and I was an improvisational person. I juggled. My friend and I from college, Stephen Haves, who was a Cirque du Soleil director and an amazing clown. We went to Paris and we did a show. I mean, I stayed in a université dorm, and we did a show in Pigalle, which is the red light district of Paris. So it was an equity waiver show. But in the meantime, we put an act together. I had a baby puppet that my friend made me. Wayne Katz made me, another incredible puppeteer and voiceover artist. But I took that to Paris, and I did these nonverbal things, and we did acts, and we juggled clubs. And so we made enough money to get steak fried at night. And we were there when all the great clowns of Cirque du Soleil were formulating, and we saw these clowns, just multi-levels, the Pompidou Center, and just command everybody's attention and make a load of money. So they work there in the nice months of Paris, and then they summer in the south of France. The clowns were kings, and people loved them. It was before they had the places to go. And you can see the power of performance. One person can hold, people who were all over the place in the street. And it really imprinted on me. It was just, it's such a powerful medium, performance, live performance. And puppets are live performers. And so anything we do, in front of the camera, if the crew isn't involved and they're not watching the show and we don't have them, whatever's going into the camera really won't matter. It won't translate to home. So puppets are live, and it's really important to get the energy in the room, regardless of where you are, or whatever location you're at. And so you all have to be connected and ready to go. So it's ensemble work. And I was doing that as a physical person, but I never touched a puppet. Then I saw an ad for Sid and Marty Krofft's Puppet School. It was a hand, and it was in the green room of college. They said, "Bruce, you should look at this." And
the ad was just a picture of a hand?
Somebody put it on the board there. And I went,
"That's clever."
I got one of these. And I said, I was fearless. I said, I could do anything. I don't care. I didn't care. I had nothing invested. A lot of people grew up making puppets, and they dreamed of Sesame Street. When I was in high school, I would come home and watch Sesame Street with Jim and Frank and Jerry and all the guys were doing, Richard. My God, it was brilliant. And I would watch Sesame Street at lunch and go back to high school. I said, this is special.
That's literally what I did when I was in high school too.
It's funny because the Muppets I thought were fantastic. And I thought they're cool, but it was Sesame Street that just really grabbed my mind and said, puppets, I never considered puppets. So when I saw the ad, I go, I'm gonna check this out. Little did I know, 500 and 600 people were trying to get back because Sid and Marty Krofft were rebooting everything they were doing. And that's where I met Tony Urbano, who is a great puppet master. He's the man who really taught me discipline, what it is to be a puppeteer, and believed in me because he chose me out of nowhere. I had no idea what I was doing, but he saw that I could do this, and they chose 16 people for a workshop to reboot all their shows. And that's where I started my puppeteering career. It was about 1980, 81. So it was 10 years before I met the Hensons. So I had some time to work things out. And I worked with him and another puppet master, Dave Pavilonis of Pavilonis's Puppets. And we did a whole bunch of shows where we got to really do characterizations. And I really, started to understand the different characters and work monitors. And I had some skills. I still had a lot to learn. So when I auditioned for Brian and Jim, and when they came west before he passed, obviously, I had some skills, and I still had a ton to learn. And I learned a ton from Frank Oz. I was right-handing for him, and I was there at, the tail end of the golden age, and the beginning of the tenure with Henson being still having the Muppets before they sold it to the Germans, and then before they sold it to Disney. So I kind of grew up with Brian, because when Jim passed, he was given the company at, I think, 24. And I was right there at ground zero. We were actually Dinosaurs watching dailies from Muppet Christmas Carol. And that first scene where Steve comes and does, the opening song, we watched it on the screen, and we're just crying. And it's just like, it was so great. I still think it's a masterpiece, number one. It's still the best Dickens version of that story.
Yeah, like I told Steve when I met him that when he did, Jim died before I was born, so I didn't really grow up in the era that Jim was doing anything at all, because he was not with us anymore. So to me, but I knew who he was, but to me, Steve was Kermit, Steve was Ernie, Steve was a lot of those characters. And I feel as though, from what I grew up with, a lot of Muppet fans probably are going to disagree with me, but from what I grew up with, I feel like Steve did some of the best songs as Kermit. But again, that's just me.
No, I think everybody who's doing the characters now are brilliant and beautiful human beings. I mean, I've been with them for so long, and the amount of caring and dedication and accuracy and heart. You don't see all of the takes that are not good. You don't see the characters doing something mediocre, because do it again. Let's do it right, because it's a balancing act, and when it clicks, it's brilliant. But it doesn't always click, because there's so many things that are happening on a set. There's so many variables. There's so many. Even the puppets are like, there's something wrong in the puppet, and you've got to keep adjusting. You've got to keep fine tuning. Everything has to be right, and it takes so much work and so much concentration, so much, as you know now, like the art department, everything has to be right. A prop has to be right. Nothing can look like it's, a breaking of the flow of the story, the song, whatever it may be that we were doing in the moment.
We were just doing a lot of that today on the show I was working on. So,
yep, fine tuning, last looks, again and again and again. And some people go, why is puppeteering taking so long? Why is it so hard? Because it is. It's hard.
Because it is, yeah.
Nobody wants to say it's hard, because it looks like, if I don't go to college and be a doctor, I'll just pick up a puppet and I'll just make money that way. Okay.
There's a lot that goes into it, really,
More power to you. Everybody wants to do what looks easy. Voiceover. I'll be a cartoon. Everybody could be a cartoon. In a way, true. But you are finding out as you get deeper in, there's a lot of things, and there's things that people are better at, and things that people may, have talents in, and some things, you can work hard enough, you can outwork people. But there's also, a time and a place for everyone, and what they're supposed to do. And you have to let your journey take you to different areas. And puppeteering for me was not acting. I wasn't going to be a star like my mother wanted me to be. But I became an actor that played characters I could never dream of. I was leading movies. My first movie, I was with this person. And that's, if you can see, that's me and Whoopi.
Oh my God.
That's T-Rex. And that's Ponsmar, who got me into the whole thing. He's a master clown and performer, and such a great friend. But I co-starred, in a buddy movie, first time out with Whoopi, with a dinosaur that all I had for the first day was an eye blink, and I'm just blinking the eye, and nothing was working, and we had to film.
What was the movie?
Called T-Rex, Theodore Rex. You can't find it. I think
it's probably one of those movies that's going to be really, really hard to find online.
Yeah. Whoopi was sued to do the movie. It was right after she won the Oscar, and it was quite a story. But what it turned out, though, was the sum total is I did three films with her.
Nice.
And we had a friendship, as well as her professionalism, and how she just lifted everybody to get through things and to remind them that they have worth. It was a lesson in, this is not easy, but you persevere, you bring what you have, and you take everybody with you on the journey, and hope for the best, that the story is told, and the people on the other end feel what you're trying to do and are entertained by it.
Yeah.
There's no guarantees. We see some of the greatest movies of all time with casts that are perfect and stories and franchises, and yet what's wrong? Why didn't it work? There's so many fingers that touch the pies in these giant blockbusters, even smaller things.
Yeah.
So, if you have a story to tell, try to keep your story and you as the person telling it. Try to honor somebody else's vision. And then when your turn comes to tell your story, hopefully the people that you've been traveling with will help you tell your story. So give yourself up to somebody else's, even if you don't agree with it. That's something I've learned, and I'm still learning, to be honest with you. Because right-handing and then being the lead of the puppeteer in the head is so different.
Yeah, it really is.
And you could beat everybody up underneath you, and I've done that too, and I'm regretful for that. But I had to learn, because you don't get the personal skills you have as a person, you don't get from show business. Show business is a false sense. You're a family, and then you're fired, or then you're terminated. But usually that it's going to end, and you never want it to. But some series go on forever, and you get to really argue this, and you get to really work out the relationships. That's a luxury. But the truth be told is, I was just a day player, and I've been day playing, in this part of my life. I'm in and out. Sometimes I don't even know what's been going on. So you got to tiptoe in and bring your energies and just give it where it's needed. And even though you want to help more, you've got to pull the reins back and understand and trust the people who are riding the horses or in the forefront.
Yeah,
so,
I learned that the other day.
Oh, now you're learning a lot, aren't you?
Yeah.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, as you said, you got to work with Jim Henson on Muppet Vision 3D, which was one of might have been his last, but one of the last projects that he did before, sadly, he suddenly passed on. And even though you didn't get to work very much with him, do you have any memories of him? What was he like?
Just what you thought he would be, and of course, all my life I've been hearing the stories from Steve and Dave Goles, another unbelievable person in my life and in everybody's life. But all the things and all the unbelievable journey that they had, is really compressed. All of that happened so fast. All of that stuff, his creativity is so. And he had an express train, he had to keep going and do things, because, I don't know if you know and you can feel how much time you have. Everybody has a different time clock, and some people seem to get so much done, and you go, what's wrong with me? Why am I not this prolific? Why can't I get my shit together and get going and do more like my icons and like my heroes? But you're you, and your time is different than everybody else's, and you can't beat yourself up for not multitasking more or doing even more, because there's other things in your life that are just as important. You've got to go with the flow of your life and grow as a person and bring it to the work. You don't know. I worked a lot more with Frank than I did with Jim, and I got to know him, and his immense, amazing talent. Here's a picture. In fact, there's my kids with Frank. He's doing Fozzie. Look, that's they're older now. This is my 30-year-old son and my daughter, who's 28.
Cute.
So Frank's doing Fozzie. They don't even notice Frank at all. But they don't even notice Fozzie, because at that moment, Kraft Food Service came by with some snacks. And my kids went, oh, snacks. And they said,
that'll distract him.
I'm Frank Oz. He's not going to feed me. So they turned away from Fozzie, a private showing of Fozzie. So that's funny. That's my life. And that's, my kids grew up on sets, and it was just all fantastical and fantasy stuff. It's just moments like that. You're living your life out on sets, and there's a trap to that. I remember Dinosaurs. We were there every moment of every hour, and I remember the guys who were up in the flies, and they're in the grid up there, and they basically live up there with the lighting and all the stuff that happens in the studio. And we had some conversations, and they said, if we could tell you guys something, you're really young, don't spend your life here in the studio, because if you do 40 years here, you go home, you may not have a home that's warm and inviting to go to, because you have no relationship with your families. You can literally spend your entire life, either lucky or unlucky, in this business, working and working and working and making things. But if these are things that are not coming from your heart and that are not being shared with the people you love, you must be careful, because you may not really get something out of it. And when push comes to shove, would you wish for more time on the set, or would you wish for more time with your children and your loved ones? So life's balance is hard, you know.
Yeah.
You're just chasing the resume and go, oh my God, look at all you've done. But what have you done, and have you done for yourself? So that's just something that has really resonated with me lately. So I wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. Talking about Frank Oz, and you said you right-handed for Fozzie quite a bit.
Little bit for yeah, go ahead.
Noel McNeil told me that when he would right-hand for Cookie Monster, because like when he would right-hand for Jim's Ernie, and Rick Lyon mentioned that Jim never did any movement of the left hand. He always let the right hand do more of the movement, so that way it didn't look like Jim was taking up too much attention. But with Frank, Noel had pointed out with Frank and Cookie Monster, if Noel would put his right, if Noel would put his right hand over Frank's left, Frank would put the left hand and go, "Me like to be on top." Did Frank ever do that for you?
He made it very clear. In fact, it was one time in Muppets Tonight. Frank was in a giant asparagus monster that was destroying the city in this scene. So they said, Brian said, "Bruce, go with Frank." And so I got him in there, and I didn't know what was going on. It was speed, action. And Frank just started destroying the set. And he didn't care I was attached. So we were flying around in 360 circles. And there was a big giant, it was like a table coming up. I had to leap up and roll like a stunt person and stay in the hand, and then come back to keep performing with Frank and this monster puppet. And it was just insane. And it kind of summed up everything. It's just give it all for what you're doing and be ready for anything, because man, it's physical and hard and exciting. And if you, with puppeteering, you're a stunt person, you're also your own DP, you're also your own director, there's so many things, there's so many multitasking things you got to do with a puppet, and then stay within the scene and hope your part is you get your best take in the can, because sometimes, and legendarily wise, Frank, when he was directing, especially for Little Shop of Horrors, Dave Barkley was telling me, another puppet master that I worked with in many, many ways, he was saying that, they did 40, 50 takes. Can you imagine? And what would happen, it was like a bell curve. So you start out and it's going pretty well, and we getting it, and everybody's getting together, and all of a sudden it starts falling apart. So they say you got 10, 20, maybe 30 takes like this. And hopefully you coming back up, and then after all the tweaks and all the things, because everything was in camera back then, they finally got something that pleased Frank and, got into the edit. But man, oh man, to try to just be pristine every single time, not forget the direction, the new directions that are coming in, the old directions, and you're a little part of it, you better be on it. You always have to be focused in.
And just be ready for what's going to happen. Yeah.
You have to, you just have to be at your best at all times, on off energy, and learning how to pace yourself in a full day in different environments, in different places. We were in Prague, and we were in this strip mine somewhere in the Czech Republic, and it was like almost 0 degrees down there. And my friend Michelin Sisti, one of the greatest suit performers, Ninja Turtles, you should do it. You should have him on.
I'd
Ninja
love to.
Turtles and Charlene and all of everything else he's ever done. He had to hold a cone, and they poured live roaches on, and we had this puppet holding this this cone of, and going, and there was roaches falling on his head as he's puppeteering in 0 degree weather. So glamorous, maybe not so much, but that's part of the fun and adventure and the insanity of doing what we do. And it's it's a crazy life. It's not for the faint of heart, I would say.
Speaking of energetic performers, did you get to know Richard Hunt at all?
I didn't, and I wish I would have, but our paths didn't cross. There was only one time at the 3D movie, and he was just looking at performers, for the future. And Alan Troutman and I, another incredible performer, Alan and I,
another past guest on this show.
We had a giant arc together. We everything, we crossed paths in so many ways. And we did the Croft Puppet School together. That's where we started out together, basically. He was puppeteering a little bit before then. But what was my point about Alan? I got lost in my own life.
Well, on the topic of original Muppet performers, today, August 23rd, marks 10 years since, and I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, 10 years since we lost Jerry. Oh, God, I will never forget waking up that day. I'm 13 years old, and I went right to the Muppet Wiki, and I saw his picture. I was like, well, that's a very nice picture. And then I found out he passed away, and I was like, oh, it was like, for me, it was like what a lot of people felt the day that Jim Henson died. Like, it felt, because I've heard Steve talk about it, I've heard Frank talk about it, I've heard Joey Mazzarino talk about it. It was exactly how it felt for them when Jim Henson died on the day that Jerry Nelson died for me. Can you talk a little bit about Jerry?
Well, yeah, I didn't have as much time because I wasn't in Sesame Street, but I did right hand for him a couple of times, once with the Count. And,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I first met him at Muppets. Was the Fairy Tale Theater, right after the earthquake, and my house got sort of destroyed. My wife was 7 months pregnant, and the freeway was actually destroyed. I had to take the train over to the studio, and
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, I was a wreck. Because I left my pregnant wife. Hopefully I can get home to her. And we did this amazing thing, and I was working with Frank and Jerry, and it was at the end of one of the days of shooting, and I guess I had to find the train back home. I was going back and forth with Alan, and he goes, "Hey, you want to hang out and smoke a J?" And I went, and stupidly I said, "Oh, Jerry, I can't. I got a pregnant wife, and the earthquake and stuff. And if I can go back in time, I sure needed to, and I wish I would have, and spent more special time with Jerry. So Jerry was a master, and Jerry was a human being. That's what I love about the Muppet guys, and the more and more I found out about them. Jim and Frank were exact opposites. When they would give different direction when they were co-directing. They were so different, but because of their differences and their creativity, that spark, that it was always fire. There was always interesting stuff. They were one of the greatest double acts in the history of show business.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was talking to Kevin Clash about that not too long ago.
This is wonderful. You get to do this, and you get to really find out what a rich, wonderful tapestry you can weave about all of this. It's and it kind
of makes me sound a little bit like a Brad. Oh, I was talking to this person. Makes me sound like a friggin' name dropper.
Well, if you're privileged to do that, and these people are telling their stories, and they can tell you things that also other people can hear, and if one of these things is a seed for somebody who's listening, or is it just helps others get to know things that they love better, what's more beautiful than that? It's like sitting at the family table and then sharing stories. And when you hear your parents or your elders say something about when they were young and they were just still learning, and it connects us, and it explains things inside of us, and this kind of communication, which I hope in a strange way, COVID said, we're protecting each other. We're a web of each other. We're on the shoulders of each other. And you can't deny that. You can't say, I stand alone, I did it myself. In show business, nobody can claim that. An actor does that, they're egotistical, or a director says, it's because of me, or a studio thinks that they're the bomb and everybody else could be replaced. That's not true.
Yeah.
Everybody is special, and everybody, especially in puppeteering, it's not anybody in the puppet. The people who are doing this and are doing multiple characters are extraordinary human beings with incredible souls.
Like Jerry, because his repertoire is like, oh my God.
It's never to be seen again what he did.
Yeah,
Jerry could do it all. And Jerry's humanness and Jerry's talent was so needed, as Richard's was, and as the guys now, they're all mentored by the past guys.
Yeah, because I know that
I think that's
yeah.
important to grow up with people's characters, especially characters that are so rich and dense and hard to do.
Yeah,
as
like
the
in the case
original
of
Muppets.
Steve with Jim, because they work together very, very closely. In the case of Matt and Jerry, because they work together closely, and like David and Richard for the same reason.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of the time I hear, oh, the voice isn't the same, and it's like what I was saying earlier. It's not about the voice.
No, it's about the soul.
Yeah,
And you have to
that's
absorb
amazing.
the soul, warts and all, and understand where these characters come. Why we love the Muppets, I think, are the flawed foolishness of human beings, and yet we forgive, or yet not even forgive, we accept and we absorb into and allow mistakes to be made. You get me angry, but it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to run away or banish or block who you are. There's an allowance, and then you know that I can stumble, I can fall, I can even trip you, but doesn't mean that it's over and we should just separate. We're very quick to do that with everybody in this world, and Muppets give room for growth and room for lessons and room for love, because a bruised heart is still a heart that loves. And if you get a bruise, it doesn't mean it's broken. And we just go so fast, and we forget, that this is delicate and lovely work that when you're stitching something, or you're putting something together, or a recipe, if you miss a step, what a shame, because it's there for a reason, and to be an apprentice in puppeteering is so crucial. It's really crucial to learn all of the jobs. So when you are in the head, you understand the sacrifice and what's needed, with everybody, and the puppet making and everything it takes to get in front of camera with a creation, with a work of art that needs breath. And then you're the one supplying it, and you're just another pearl in a string of pearls. One pearl's beautiful, pearl earrings, but a string of pearls that go together are spectacular and are timeless. And we all want to do things that hold up in time and can speak to people when we're gone. That's a lovely legacy. It doesn't always happen, not even close, but with Jerry's work and the originals. Wow, right? I mean, just still glows, doesn't it? And it feels just as hot and pertinent as it's just happening now.
Yeah, like even Muppet performers that have just retired, like even if they're not, passed on, they still have a legacy, because they really left something behind when they took off.
Yeah. And I think of like Eric and what he took on. And the difference with Eric is that the characters that he's doing is the person who's still alive. It's not like
exactly.
I couldn't imagine the pressure and the responsibility. I can't imagine it, because I've been around him a lot, and he's an extraordinary man and performer, and he cares so much. And yeah, it's an honor and a privilege and a responsibility, and not taken lightly. And yet we do the lightest of things, satires and spoofs and songs, but all of that takes so much, just to be a chicken, and I was a chicken right next to Lady Gaga, and she was like on a pedestal, and I'm right here going, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then I was a right hand for somebody, and then I think it was we were shooting something, and
she probably told your chicken to just dance.
Yeah, my chicken did just dance, because that's when you're with the dancers, and doing choreography with real dancers and talents like Gaga, it's just like,
and somebody that freaking legendary too.
Somebody pinch my chicken. I can't believe I'm this chicken and I'm doing this. Or a penguin. I've been penguins and chickens, and
at least you didn't penguin out.
Look at you. You did that. Exactly.
So when you did Dinosaurs, as you were saying, you were the face puppeteer for Charlene. And for anyone who's never watched Dinosaurs, you can find it on Disney Plus. It's a really funny show. Little bit
Oh.
slapstick. Like I tell this story a lot on the podcast. On the day it launched on Disney Plus, I went right to the first episode, and my mom says to me, "What are you watching?" Because she's seeing the
She
baby.
never-
She never saw it, and she sees the baby smacking Earl with the pan, going, "Not the mama, not the mama, not the mama." And I was like, "It's called Dinosaurs." So she sees more of the goofiness in it. She's like, "This is a show that people watched."
She was a little shocked.
A little bit shocked that it was so goofy.
How
for
about
a
that's
puppet
racy?
show.
You know, after in the world of Game of Thrones, that's racy. So
Yeah.
a puppet hitting another puppet with a pan. That's
Yeah.
that's just what is it? It's Punch and Judy. They've been doing this
Exactly.
since the what the 15th century. I mean,
Yeah, like I always thought that the Muppets were like if Tex Avery and Chuck Jones were doing puppets
Hell
instead of
yeah.
animation. Yeah.
You remember the coffee ads that Jim did? They would blow people up. He would just
I have a
destroy them.
shirt. I have a Wilkins Coffee shirt.
And it was
I should have worn it.
That's not so PC these days, but
Yeah.
just Crazy Harry. We brought him back
Oh
for
my
some
God,
things, and it was just like, can we do this?
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
9/11 happened, things like that. It's just like, life goes on, and some things are funny and not funny, and some things you gotta go slow with.
Yeah,
But-
that's something we've all kind of learned over the last 2 years.
Yeah, but slapstick, what's funny, but seeing a rich man fall down is very funny, and on his keister. It'll always be funny to see somebody get comeuppance.
Mhm.
If there's cause and effect, if comedy is done correctly, there's nothing like it, and it stays universal. If you look at
Mhm.
everything, Muppets do it really, really well.
Yeah. So for Charlene, you were just kind of off the set doing the face, if I'm not mistaken.
We were at stands with
Okay.
monitors,
Okay.
and we had headphones. Everybody was breathing together. So the guys
Right.
inside, they couldn't turn their mics off. We can go private, so I can talk to Misha
Mhm.
privately. But then when the cacophony of everybody doing the scene, so we were the guys in the it's like this. I can see you just as I'm opening the mouth, and they would mark everything brilliantly and do props, and it was incredible what they could do and move those suits around. We were performing everything, and everything had to be just lightning fast. We didn't have a lot of takes. It was a lot of pressure. We'd start at 6 a.m. on a Monday, and we'd finish
Holy crap.
I think Saturday probably at 3 a.m, reset and start all over again.
Like
It was-
right on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Like
if it wasn't for the union's 12-hour turnaround, we would be there. We've been there all the time. And most of us
Wow.
probably would have said fine,
Mhm.
But thank God, everybody can recharge, and we can dry out the suits. They were just soaked with sweat every day.
Oh, God,
They had
I
to be taken
bet.
back to the shop and giant blowers blowing these suits, dry. And the next day, but sometimes if something happened, somebody had to crawl into somebody else's suit. It was like going into a jacuzzi you don't want to go into. I was in a suit actually early on. I was in one of the Dinosaurs. And my last day in the Dinosaur suit, and there's a picture of me and Brian. It was on People magazine. You could see my nose and right in the in the neck, because it was like this on my face. So I was a dinosaur in furs, and I had a staff, and I was sitting by a fire, and I had to wait my turn to do my bit, and I was going crazy because I was just it was like I was in an easy bake oven. Not so easy. I was baking. It was not good.
Yeah, my friend's in Florida at the moment, and
Poor people. Is he in a suit?
well, she's there for a vacation, and
Thank God.
so and while I was on the set, it was raining today. Well, raining and drizzly and kind of muggy today, and so I sent her a picture, not of the set, but of the weather, and I was like, "So how's Florida?" She's like, "Oh, super hot." I was like, "It's a friggin' oven in here." And I'm on a TV show set, and it's a freaking oven.
Yeah, maybe super for me isn't for you. let's be honest.
I
Yeah.
mean, I do it because it's cool. So for any of the listeners who don't know, the actual voice of Charlene that you end up hearing on the show was done by Sally Struthers. Did I say that correctly?
You did. She was
Okay.
from All in the Family fame, for those who don't
Right.
maybe
Yeah. I was
know
trying
her
to.
work.
I was
done
trying to
many,
remember what
many
show
other
she was
things.
on.
That's what
did-
she was
Okay.
really got famous on. Yeah, she was
Okay.
lovely. The
Did
funniest thing happened though when because I did ADR voices as well. I was so
Mhm.
lucky, and I did like I think 60 or 80 different voices. because I played all these other.
I was just about to ask you if you met her.
Oh,
like you answered my question.
Oh my God, it was the most fun in the world. I got to do every character I could ever imagine wanting to do. It was the greatest. We all knew it was the greatest experience. Oh, we have a softball.
It's really
team.
unique.
Yeah, we had a softball team. We played all the other TV shows in a league. I mean,
seems like every TV show has that. Like mine does. The one I'm
does it? Oh my God, there you go.
I've never played on it because I'm there as an apprentice. But
if you can play ball, they'd have you. You know, there was a lot of ringers on a lot of the teams, but we had a lot of fun doing that too. And then we play hacky sack in front of the set. This was the days where Seinfeld. We were right next to the Seinfeld set.
Nice.
And right down the street was Evening Shade with Burt Reynolds, and Roseanne and Tom Arnold were shooting Roseanne, and they would sometimes zoom in carts and chase each other and do crazy shit. We'd have to get out of the way of them. I mean, it was like the olden days of television in a way. It was another little golden age. It was a CBS MTM lot, and it was the greatest thing in the world. And every time at lunch, we'd say, okay, that's lunch. I would run with Steve and whoever else was going to the Thai place across the street, and we have Thai food almost every day. And that was the greatest joy. I mean, it was just like camp, hardest camp you ever went to, and you never wanted to come home from. You never missed your folks. You didn't want to go. You don't want to go back to your life. And we did it for 2.5 years.
Nice.
5 seasons. We almost did a film between the 5th and 6th season. Brian was going to direct.
I didn't know.
Oh, it was going to be amazing. It was a 6-week shoot. It was all set, but the powers that be couldn't come to an agreement, so we didn't do the feature. I was like,
damn it.
It was just, it really was. Well, I wish you could have seen the set and these characters come to life. There was nothing like it. You know, we did a feature every single week, and it was so hard and so fun. Oh,
awesome. So after Dinosaurs, then I think was the Muppets on Wheels home video.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
Yeah, I have a copy of it too.
Yeah, that's me. That was Lindy.
Yeah, was Lindy your first like speaking role ever?
Well, it was certainly a speaking role with Muppets and talking to Kermit. I mean, I never had a character directly talking to Kermit. You know, it was Mr. Kermit, Mr. Kermit, Mr. Kermit. You know, it was perfect. I was, a hyperactive kid, which I still am. So, I mean, we got to sing and go all over my valley. You know, they had a racetrack and it was a restaurant and all these places. And then it was in a balloon. Bill was in an actual airplane that was flipping over. He was in a pig puppet. God. I had my day. I rode Colossus. It was one of the great roller coasters of Magic Mountain here in the West Coast.
Oh, that's funny. We have a Magic Mountain here. In New Brunswick. But
I don't know if you have one of those big wooden roller coasters, a classic.
We used to like at Upper Clements Park in Digby, but that park no longer exists, unfortunately.
What a shame. But this one I think was rebuilt. But when it was there, they put a coat on me with a fake arm. I had the puppet, and we were in the front of the roller coaster, and I put a monitor underneath, and 8 times we went around.
Wow. So basically,
that was the end of my day.
So you kind of made a little. I noticed that you made a little cameo in there right next to Lindy. Like I could.
Well, I had to. I was sitting next to him, so I had to talk to the puppet. And never, if I can just say this to everybody: don't watch TV on a roller coaster. Never. Don't try to watch a monitor and look up. And my brain went, and I fell right over. And I was So that was my
I sure as hell hope you hadn't eaten prior.
If I did, it was from past lives eating. I was destroyed anyway. But you give it up for the team, So things that go, you got to go, and I did.
So you also did Muppets Tonight, and for any of the listeners who don't know what that is, that was like the short-lived futuristic. I say futuristic for the reason of it's like a reboot of the Muppet Show, but instead of being set in a vaudeville theater, it was set in a TV studio. I like that, given the fact that I'm working on a TV show, but not really in the studio and such. I haven't even seen if there's there probably is, but I haven't seen it, like a control room of sorts. Like it was like it was very much a reboot of the Muppet Show, but more futuristic. But the formula was basically the same. There were celebrities every episode. Do you have any celebrity stories from Muppets Tonight?
I have some. I was only there for the first season because at the end of that, that's when Kevin Clash put me into a room with Drew Massey, and we auditioned for Dr. Seuss. We didn't even know there was a worldwide search for those characters. We were, just dealing with what we were doing with Muppets Tonight. But this was the explosion and well, the entranceway for Bill Barretta's characters. This is where Pepe was introduced, and this was Bobo, and this is where Bill. Wow, I mean, so many things to say about Bill. Is just
he's funny.
He's funny.
He's so funny.
He's so funny, and he's so brilliant at everything he touches and wants to do. And his energy in the Muppets is probably one of the reasons why the Muppets are still going. And now even more so than ever, Bill is executive producing so many things, and he just makes an umbrella and a boat for all, and his way of just his way of performing and being in the moment is like no other, So not only did they have the classic guys, Jerry was still with us and Frank was still characters in that moment. Bill was injected in, and him and Brian, all the characters that they did together, Johnny Fiamma and Sal and the love, and it was so many people and so much going on, and how could it not have been going on still, because everything was there. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, why not? And then, Muppets, and then, just the politics and the things that happen. It's not always smart or jivey. Just let the audience just, take a breath and take it in. And it should have gone longer than it did in the 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's really too bad that it didn't go on as long as it did. Especially because, like I said, it's a futuristic Muppet show, but maybe people just didn't get that.
Maybe not. It was just not the right time for nostalgia.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm helping you.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you know, I kind of started this as a pandemic project, and all the TV shows were running and re-airing the old nostalgic shows, and that appealed to me. I was like, oh my god, I remember watching this. I'm actually going to see. I feel like the pandemic really brought a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people, because it's like, hey, remember when we were allowed to do stuff and go out?
Yeah,
I'm actually going to see the Wiggles in a couple of weeks. They're going to be
oh my
coming
god
here.
Oh, a lot of people are going to lose their minds about that.
That's the only reason I'm going is because it's so nostalgic for me.
It's beautiful.
Yeah
That's wonderful. I mean, those are the things that God just bring us such joy and peace. And I'm for joy and peace, because there's all the other stuff's being well taken care of. Sadly, we need to give each other hugs, and these are inner hugs. Our characters, we can hug them, they can hug us. We can do it as a group, and you're doing that. You're rallying everybody to say, remember these things, and the people that make them. And if you want to make them, you can. You dream big and you work hard. There's places you'll go that you can't even imagine, or you can imagine, and you'll get there. I really believe that. Everything I grew up with, Mad Magazine and breakfast cereals and all the things. And my first movie was Mary Poppins. My mom took me. I was 5 years old, and a giant movie theater. And what a movie to see! And how do you dance with cartoon characters? How do you be?
Yeah, I totally agree.
How? And in my life, I found out. I mean, I was just a kid from New Jersey. There was nobody in show business in my family. There was no roads. It was not even a dream. I was, East Coast. Hollywood was, a state of mind or just something on television that was unreachable. And yet my family moved here when I was 13. I was closer to it. And that was, closer and closer. And then when I saw this, and then I wanted to be an actor, but yet puppeteering was the vehicle that got me to make all of my dreams come true. And I couldn't be more grateful. I mean, this is a toy, and
for any of the listeners, I know that none of the listeners can see it, but he's pulling the Cat in the Hat, the tie of the toy to make it talk. It's like
my voice is in a number of toys. Did you grow up with one of these, CNC? Remember these at all?
Yes, I do remember them. Yeah. I don't think I had one. That your voice?
Yeah, it's got a little warped over the years.
Yeah,
I'm a little warped over the years. So Works out good.
So for Wubbulous World of Dr. Seuss, like Kevin just brought you into this and said audition for this show. That's how it worked.
It wasn't even on my radar. And when Drew and I went into the room, you know, we didn't know what we were doing. And then we started laughing, and then I started laughing hysterically. And then we just did a take where I just was crying, laughing, and I was running around and doing crazy things on the camera. Mm-hmm. And Kevin said to me that was one of the best auditions he's ever seen.
Wow.
And what happened was Brian said, you know, there's not enough work for you on the show. I have all these people to take care of. And he says, I think I'm going to send you to New York. I said, what? You know, I don't want to leave really, but I thought, okay. But I didn't realize that they've been searching and everybody read for the cat and stuff. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, that crazy moment was the clock was ticking and the show was mounting, and I went. And the first thing I did when I was there, they put me on a boat in the Hudson River, you know, one of the ferries, and I went to the top, and I was at the wheel, and it was the Nickelodeon Awards, and I went on a live feed. I never saw
the Kids' Choice Awards.
The Kids' Choice Awards. I was the Cat in the Hat. You know, I think it was Rosie O'Donnell cut to me live, and I'm piloting the boat in the middle of the river in New York City. I've never touched the puppet. I didn't even have a voice yet, and I was the Cat in the Hat.
Mm-hmm. You were the Cat in the Hat. There's no doubt about that.
Oh my God. And, you know, Dr. Seuss to me was basically, you know, it was like biblical. I loved everything about it. Every book I had, I memorized, I loved. But I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be the cat. And the cat was a giant puppet that didn't fit me. And I tried to live up to it, but it was a lot. It was a lot. I wish I could have workshopped more and a lot of other things, but still the honor and privilege. And I had so much respect for all of that, you know? So I did the first season of Cat in the Hat, and it was just, what an experience. Took a year to do 22 shows for the first season.
And not to mention, when it comes to Cat in the Hat in the media, at least yours wasn't inappropriate.
There you go. So at least
do you know what I'm referring to?
Yes, and exactly.
Yeah.
And
for any of the listeners who don't, there's a film of the Cat in the Hat featuring Mike Myers, and he's really funny as the Cat in the Hat. Like, it's one of my favorite Mike Myers films, but it's just a little too goofy.
No, it's you know, I thought
it was funny.
Yeah, I just think the cat, you know, and I've been accused of, you know, being a little snarky, and I don't see it that way. You know, it's an omnipotent character. It's a character that's everybody's friend. It's a hard character to do with a puppet. Mm-hmm. I love the animated stuff. I thought was perfect. You know, I don't think that it didn't have to be anything more than you know, the ones we saw growing up. I thought they were brilliant. You know, but you know, we had some really good shows, and we tried very much. But once I think we all started writing, we were creating new Dr. Seuss stories. It's almost like saying, you know, I'm going to make new Shakespearean stories. I felt that way. It was just like, well, why don't we just do everything and anything that's already here? Because that's true Seussian stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's a tricky thing of taking a franchise and then stretching it to make it more. You know, James, I heard today, and I don't know how you feel about this, they're going to do a new Wizard of Oz.
I haven't heard about that.
It just got announced. Do you think it's necessary?
It's funny. I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago when it comes to film remakes. One of my favorite movies from my childhood is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the one with Johnny Depp. I didn't grow up with the Gene Wilder one, but basically I had a lot of friends who we were like in single digits, and we really liked the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. None of us knew that it was a remake. And then I think they aired the Gene Wilder one on TV, and then I watched that without realizing that it was so classic. And then,
what did you think of that?
Looking back on it, it's very, very visual. But with the Johnny Depp one, like, there's a lot more action in it, I think, and there's a lot more specifics to it as well. Because like with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you've got the typical way that the kids kind of are eliminated from this challenge, we should say. And in the original, you never hear from them again. You're just supposed to assume that they're either dead or dismembered. In the remake, they're fine, just a little bit kind of different.
I like, see, Roald Dahl is so dark. You know that, no?
Oh yeah.
And his other stuff is even darker.
Yes.
You know?
I
My
haven't
God.
really, I haven't really read much of Roald Dahl's books, but some of the films I've seen, dark.
Whoa.
Dark.
Yes. And it's like the early Disney too, you know? You're
Yeah.
5 minutes in and you've lost a parent. And it's like,
Well, I'm going to give you a great example of early Disney that's kind of dark. The ending of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which is where the dwarfs are chasing the queen who has now transformed herself into a witch. She tries to throw them off by pushing a boulder to them, but the boulder goes the other way, and lightning helps too. Takes off the cliff, a little piece of the cliff that she's standing on. The boulder kind of pushes her down, and you don't actually see it crush her, but you see these friggin' vultures looking downward more closely at the queen, and then the scene fades into the vultures going down and basically chasing after her remains.
Yeah.
That's dark.
Yeah.
That's dark.
And it's like, good night, Billy. I hope you enjoyed the movie with mommy and daddy. Bye. It's like,
yeah. It's like an episode of Friends.
I won't be there for you.
Oh God. I think we just ruined the TV show. So, talking about movies that have a little bit of a sweet side to them. I know this is kind of a little bit of a strange film for me to bring up. It's not a cult film that you were involved in, but it's one that has been. That sounded wrong. But
no,
it's
for
me.
Close
It
to
is
the truth. I have to go now. I have to go cry in the corner. Yes, keep going. Keep going.
But for me, it was one that's always been a big part of my life. You were involved in the Adventures of Elmo and Grouchland.
Oh, just as a voice.
Yeah, that's what I had heard.
Yeah. I wasn't there for the filming. I don't know exactly. And I'm not sure I saw it in completion of that movie. I saw it, during doing voices during ADR.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, it's cute.
Yeah, how could it not? Kevin's Elmo. Gosh darn, I have a story.
Let's hear it.
On the set of Dinosaurs, my daughter was super fussy, and I brought her there, and Kevin was missing his daughter. We were there so many hours, and we were going, okay, we're shooting. We'll take her outside. Kevin goes, give me her for a second. I went, oh, sure, here. So he picks up my daughter, puts her on the shoulder, and he starts singing some song, but in Elmo's voice.
That definitely sounds like something Kevin would do.
And my daughter, her eyes got wide, and then she fell asleep on his shoulder. So, I'm always grateful for that moment.
Kevin's great. Kevin's
a great guy,
Yeah.
We clashed a lot, not to say, because of his
no
last
pun
name.
intended.
I was his big sister, and he's my little brother, and we had that kind of relationship, So we would go at each other.
But none of those involved a frying pan, right?
No. Charlene was too smart to get hit by the frying pan from her little brother. Her father, not so much.
Yeah. I met Kevin at the beginning of the year. He was doing virtual meet and greets with GalaxyCon. I'm a member of GalaxyCon, and I heard that Kevin was doing meet and greets, and I've gotten that's also how I met Steve. That's how I met quite a few people, actually. And I heard Kevin was doing them, and so I signed up, met him. We talked for they had 3 minutes, so we talked for about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And in that, we talked a little. I think we told some good stories. He told me a Jim and Frank story, and when you were talking about Jim and Frank being different from each other,
Kevin was there for everything.
Well, Kevin told me this one. They were having a work meeting, and they were talking seriously about work. And Jim says, "Hey Frank, there's this amusement park that's just down the street. You want to come?" And Frank's like, "God no, I don't want to go to this amusement park." And Jim's just trying so hard to coax him into going to the amusement park, and everyone's like, "They're doing Ernie and Bert!" And they just kind of did it, like without realizing they were just being themselves.
That's the beauty. I mean, that's the magic and the kismet of those people coming together, doing what they did in the time period they did it. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those magic things of life. And the genius and magic of Jim to let everybody in and to do and be themselves and find their place within this ragtag group of artists and artisans that created the vehicles in which to showcase their beautiful talents and senses of humor. Thank God they did. I mean, so how many of us are just working on and doing because of that. It keeps replenishing. At the set of the show we just completed, you know, we had a trailer, and there was me, and then it was Art Vega, and then it was oh God, I'm gonna kick myself for not knowing. I forgot his name, but there were 3 generations of puppeteers. And there we were, you know, a 20-year-old, a 40-year-old, and a 60-year-old, and we're trading stories and chatting and getting to know each other and doing the same job. We're doing the same job, you know. We're all interchangeable, really. I mean, some people had more talents than others, musically, this and that and the other thing. But all in all, we were trained, and we focus in, and we love to do the same things. Generations of people still working together to create this delicate, beautiful magic of these characters that people just love to be with.
Yeah.
And it's no small thing. And to still be doing it at all, for the grace of my good friends who allow me to, and hopefully the energy that I bring, you know, with no expectations and joy is I don't know, it's a privilege and an honor, and I'm lucky. I'm super lucky to still be in with the pool of making stuff that's worth making, you know.
So another somewhat recurring, I guess, character that you've done for the Muppets, kind of still appears now and then, but you got to be on Family Feud doing Mo Frackle.
That was great.
Yeah, that's one that a lot of fans know you best for. I've noticed on the Tough Pigs website. Yeah,
I know it got a resurgence too, and for Hana Mention, I got to do the character again.
I saw that. I didn't realize that was you until I looked it up.
That's Bill. He says, "I'm gonna bring back your character." Yeah, you know, I got to be my monster again. Yeah, Mo Frackle.
Well, I'd love to be a Muppet writer one of these days, and I swear to God, I'm gonna if I get there, maybe I'll try to make him a regular character for you.
I hope so. I always wanted to do Fraggle Island, because in my improvisations of like my history, where are you from? I just said, well, you know, Kermit came to the island, you know, and we were all there, and he was there for a vacation, as he met the Fraggles, and they live in a whole world. So, you know, you've got the, you know, Mo Frackle and Fraggles. So it was Frackle Island. So, you know, because there's a lot of Frackles, and I thought they have to come from somewhere, you know. So for me, it was a tropical island that I made up when Louis was asking, you know, who are you? Where are you from? That kind of thing. I don't think it made the show, but you could do a script about, you know, Frackle Island, where they're, you know, they all have this life together, and they're a wonderful community, and some go off and some come back. I think it'd be so much fun. You know, it's kind of like the Rio movies with the birds. It's beautiful and colorful.
Yeah.
It's so fun to just have an island of monsters to go to.
Yeah, because it was established in I think it was the Great Santa Claus switch that the Frackles are like the minions to Cosmo Scam.
There you go. See, those threads are there. There's so many threads that Jim left.
Yeah, but I never thought about that, where they come from. That's clever, because you know, here you are doing one that's got
story.
this. Yeah, because here you are that's doing one that's on this big TV show, and you know, because you know, and it's true, they do often ask, where are you coming from on these game shows?
So funny. Game shows. I did 4 game shows.
Oh wow!
In fact, for a while, my wife and I were like professional game show contestants. We get paid $10, $15 for little run-throughs, and that culminated in going to Scotland for 10 days, where we did a pilot shoot for Goodson Todman, and it was amazing. But I was on Password, I was on Body Language, and I was on Match Game, and me and Charles Nelson Riley matched for $5,000. I won the ending, but I was going to win like almost $35,000 or $40,000 on Password, but we just didn't work. And Mr. Brady, I forgot the actor's name. He was my celebrity, and Anita Gillette was another one, and we didn't match and make the big money. But I had some game show experience. And then when Jane Gutnick said to me, what do you want on the card? What's the name of the character? Because there was no name for that Frackle.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, you know, I'm going to name it after Cy, my father-in-law who just passed. And I said, it doesn't feel like a Cy, you know? And I just thought like Mo, you know, it's fast, it's easy. And I said, Mo, and how do you spell it? M-O, I think. And so she wrote it, and then it became a character. It just became a character in the Muppet lore, you know, it's just like that. but I had to, keep it quick because we have to go. She put it down, and then we started shooting. So that's how Mo was born. And I went over this with James Wardle. We talked about it because I didn't know he made the character. So Tough Pigs put us together, and we
I saw that. Yeah,
I know, it was so cool, and I felt this is really cool. Something really small.
People love this small little character. Yeah,
because we all feel sometimes small little characters in a bigger story, and you get kind of lost. But when something's noticed, I feel like everybody gets noticed. Because we all have a story, and when you focus in, you realize, wow, how much humanity and love. That's what we need to share and talk about.
Yeah.
Not some of the big crappy, Kardashian type of, who gives a, more power to them, but they're not empowering us. We empower each other by lifting each other and say, I saw that little detail and thank you for doing that. And believe me, it just electrifies those who do these things and think, does anybody care? I was lucky to be working that day. So it was a wonderful experience.
That kind of makes me think of another Muppet that's had quite a big resurgence from minor character that's just in the background to now pretty big character, Uncle Deadly.
Wow.
Yeah, like that. I don't think anybody ever saw that coming.
Well, Matt is a genius. Matt is one of the most beautiful human beings to be around, and he's such a genius. And so, on the Muppet Movie, I got to do the right hand for him for
that was actually about to be my next question, the 2011 Muppet Movie.
That was one of my favorite right-handing jobs ever, because Matt was just having a ball because he was in a character. I mean, that's the sports cars. That's a character that is beautiful to see, James.
Yeah, really. That's a really for a deadly thing, like with deadly, no pun intended. It's a really nice looking puppet for this like monster.
And I'm not sure who built. I'm not. If Jane built him. I don't know exactly. And please, if anybody, if you do find out, I want to know. And the builder of those puppets.
Well, the original Uncle Deadly was built by Dave Goelz.
There it is. Yeah, isn't that funny? Dave is so multi-talented.
Yeah.
And right-handing for Dave is an adventure. I got to do that years and years. Little things with Bunsen and I was doing some just like the feet when we were just doing a levitation thing for the Hollywood Bowl and countless other wonderful moments to be with those guys. But Deadly was a blast, and he had a good time too.
Yeah, maniacal laugh.
I love that. I love that, the dramaticness of it, and just,
so
it's really fun to really play with all of that theatricality. I mean, I love that kind of stuff.
During the 2015 ABC Muppets series, because Uncle Deadly was so popular, so the Muppets Twitter account would do these Q&As with Muppets, and Uncle Deadly did it a couple of times. And there was one, it was close to Christmas, and I commented, "Hey, Uncle Deadly, how are you spending Christmas?" And I got a reply, which was, "Most people don't know that I am a Snuggie collector, and I am looking to up my vast collection." Or about a month later, it was like they were coming back from Christmas, and Uncle Deadly was doing a Q&A. I had been watching a lot of hockey at the time, and so I think I was watching a game like in between, like during ad breaks. And so during a game, I think it was, I wrote a tweet to Uncle Deadly, "Do you like hockey?" And I get, "Well, it is a very dramatic sport." It's a dramatic sport if somebody ends up with a concussion.
Yeah, more dramatic for some people than other people.
Like
don't get hit by the puck.
I've seen players fall on their faces and there's blood on the ice. That's the most entertaining part of it.
Blood on the ice.
Really,
There's nothing more dramatic than blood on the ice. That's for sure. Yeah, I like hockey too. Hockey's amazing. I think I did a McNugget hockey commercial. I don't know if I was on that one. That was pretty wild. Yeah, that was one of the first things I started with puppeteering was with Tony Urbano, brilliant, builder as well. I mean, my God, everything he did was brilliant. But McNugget commercials, boy, that changed my life because we were living in a small apartment, Lori and I worked for like 7 weeks, and I went to my mailbox and it was like, oh, somebody broke the mailbox. What's going on? I couldn't get the key in. Open it up. It's filled with checks.
Holy crap.
Like 20 checks, and every one was bigger than the next one. And it was the McDonald's national commercials. And I never did anything in show business up till then. I did the United Air Express commercials. That was the first thing to get me into SAG. But the McNugget commercials, my God, it changed our life. I said, maybe there's like a career here. That's when the light went on. You know, it was like unbelievable. You know, that was the rent for the year and more. If 2 years of rent, all in one mailbox. So it's like, wow, that was amazing.
Basically saving your whole life there.
Puppets have saved my life in many ways. I attest to it, you know, and they've also challenged, you know, what are you doing? And you can't cheat. You can't cheat. You have to bring you have to bring yourself, your full essence to puppets. You do it halfway. It for me, I see and feel it. You know, you got to be fully present to do this crazy, I can do it better, give me another take type of life. You know, sometimes you get that, sometimes you don't. And then sometimes you get into a puppet that changes your life, and it's the epitome of everything. So at Animatronics, it was Mr. Tinkles for Cats and Dogs 1 and 2. And when I got to work with that and Dave Barkley and the Creature Shop, the Jim Henson Creature Shop, the most brilliant place that ever existed.
Oh yeah, it's amazing what they've done.
I worked with an LA shop, that was my base, but I also worked London a little bit when I did the Pinocchio movie in Prague. But the creations and the geniuses of all of the people who fabricate puppets and, you know, lessen their lives by the chemicals and the heart and soul of and the deadlines to make these gorgeous, amazing, you know, vehicles of just joy and character. It's just an honor to be a part of all of that, because it's an art form it's so ancient. It's what happened on the hunt. You pick up a bone and you put a little fur on it, and suddenly, ooh, here we go. This is what happened, and you're enthralled. And it's just telling stories by the fire. That's what I feel what puppets are.
That's a great way to put it. So another project that I really like, and another somewhat of a Muppet reboot, is Studio DC Almost Live.
Really? Oh,
well, I'll tell you why. I'm a Disney Channel kid.
Yeah.
And, you know, I grew up in the 2000s. So all those shows that were on Studio DC Almost Live, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Hannah Montana, Corey in the House, Wizards of Waverly Place.
That's what I too.
Yeah, that's what I grew up with. Those shows were like a big part of my childhood. Disney Channel is actually what, in part, inspired me to want to get into the film industry.
Ah, excellent.
Because I'd watch a lot of these shows even into my teenage years, and during that time, I was bullied a lot, and like I'd come home and just watch all these live action sitcoms on Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, and it just made me happy. Wow. You know, I was away from what was going on at school, and then would come home and just be. I mean, I like high school, but I just didn't always have the best of times there. And so eventually I started to realize that a lot of the characters in these shows were going through kind of the exact same stuff that I was going through. And then I used that and wrote a movie script.
That's brilliant. I was bullied too. And this was in the 60s in New Jersey. And I was kind of obese. And I was, you know, I was one of 2 Jewish kids in this kind of rural New Jersey school. And it was weird, you know, and I was always kind of really left alone. You know, but I had all these things ruminating inside of me and all these things that I wanted to do. And I was, you know, I had gregarious, had a sense of humor, and I cultivated it by what I watched. I go home and watch the Batman series and Zorro and
nice. Those are classics.
It comes of the times, you know, those shows were, I wouldn't miss them. And in those days you missed them. There was no VCR. It was, you watched the show, you hoped your TV worked, you got reception with aerials. I mean, we were lucky to get TV. And there was only, a handful of channels, you know, so there was no do-overs. So, you know, appointment television and watching TV with my family, watching Jerry Lewis movies, you know, things where we all could laugh.
All the classics,
TV specials. And it was the time of the Seuss specials, Charlie Brown. Oh God, Charlie Brown. That's the only puppet I made was a Snoopy puppet, and it was out of paper mache. Did you ever work with paper mache?
I have actually. Yeah. I was in a puppet club when I was in elementary school, and there was one play, I forget what it was called, but it was like fairy tale characters going to an employment agency. I don't remember who wrote it. I feel I don't remember if it was a story created by the person running the puppet club or if it was just something that she had used because it was funny.
Very clever.
And
Yeah.
so the fairy tale characters, I remember mine was Peter Rabbit, I think, were made out of paper mache, but we had to make them ourselves. And I will say, Peter Rabbit looked like a friggin' cat.
You start doing something, you go, oh no, this is going terribly wrong. But somehow in my mind, I got the shape of Snoopy's, gourd head, and the ears were right, and I nailed it, and didn't have a mouth that talked. And you really didn't need that for Snoopy, but I was so proud of it. But that's the only puppet that I've ever made, really, by myself. Yeah, and I've been doing this forever. So I feel like I missed a big part of that kind of creation,
So with Studio DC Almost Live, what was that like? Because that seems like quite the crossover.
Yeah, it was when the Muppets were trying to find, where they belong again. They kind of got orphaned a little bit, so they were in different divisions of Disney and bounced around, which was all leading to, all the little shorts they did. A lot of them, that Steve thought of, those little mini things.
Like the Bohemian Rhapsody video.
Well, that's what it led to, but there were smaller ones before that. Bill thought of some, and all the guys thought of different ones. And then when we did the Bohemian Rhapsody thing, it sounded like a great idea. How could this miss? But nobody saw the 16 million people who just said, we love this. And that's what led to the movie. Then all of a sudden Disney went, holy cow, we've got to, we're going to grab on this tiger tail and rev it up. And so the new regime began, the new wave of Muppets and a new generation of people who started to watch.
We've got everything that we need right in front of us.
Yeah, and there's so much in the past now. So, it's a rich legacy and tapestry of a lot of joy, of joy.
And then finally the movie comes out, and a whole bunch of people who had never seen the Muppets before because I went with one of my really good friends, and because she had never seen the original Muppet Show, I had, and that's the thing I really liked about this one is that for a lot of the Muppet movies, it shows them as characters, which is a good thing because that's what they are. But for the Muppets film, it showed we were popular at one point. That's basically what it was saying. We were popular at one point, and we want to be popular again. And really, it sounds to me like Jason Segel's idea for the movie was basically what he was trying to do.
Yeah, it came from love, and it came from
absolutely,
and honestly, in the moment thing. However, not everybody saw it that way. They didn't go away. They just were dormant, but they were living their lives and living their best lives.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, because of puppets, they think, oh, we have to help them. Oh, poor Kermit, or poor, and you need to be rescued because they can't take care of themselves, which is kind of the antithesis of the Muppet movie, where we're going to find ourselves and our tribe and take care of each other. So there's a difference that really sticks in the craw with some people about, the revisionist Muppet history of this is not what they were intended. These were fully formed adult childlike characters that just need each other, and we'll welcome anybody else who wants to join in, but we're fine without you, but we'd love to have you, rather than please help us, please rescue us because we can't figure stuff out. And then that's when the Muppets are fully formed, like all of us hope to be, that we have the tools necessary inside of us from the people we love and what we've learned and what we are going to learn to be open-minded enough to figure things out. But, to say you need to rescue me because you are this, or you have power, you have money, is a problem of a lot of things in our country. No, nobody is better than anybody else, really, but sometimes it's portrayed that way, and we just have to be careful in hearing the stories that are brought to the table, which could change the trajectory of everything if everybody's voice is heard. And that's what I learned from everybody about Jim. Jim would say, let's use the best idea. I don't care where it comes from. And he meant it, and it was the truth of things. It could come from a grip, it could come from the delivery man. Oh, it doesn't matter if it's organic and funny and right. It's in.
Yeah, that's what I always heard about him, that he would listen to other people's ideas, even if it was even if it was a set visitor. Like I actually heard that it was Lisa Henson who named the Great Muppet Caper. So there's a great idea. There's a great example of him using ideas from somebody who wasn't technically involved in a production, but that still made a difference on him.
It's just, you're there watching something live that's being, it's coming to life in real time. And if there's something there that works, that's a lightning bolt of like, yes is in, And so that's what I tend to want to do now more than ever. Things that are just too tight or too, right or wrong. I don't know, because it's subjective. You make remakes of things that are beautiful. Yeah. So what are you going to bring? You said something also that kind of stuck with me. It's like the Muppets, wanted to be liked again, or they want something from the public. I don't think the Muppets do. I don't think they're asking you to accept them, or
except for in the movie because they needed money.
I think that was a bit of the narrow-mindedness that I don't feel was true Muppety. It's like they don't need to be clicked upon and liked. They're not the phone. It's not like, please click on Kermit. If you like Kermit, you like Kermit. If you love Kermit, you love Kermit. But Kermit's going to be fine without your like and love, because Kermit is liked and loved. Like you're liked and loved at home, and thank God. And I have people around me who love and like me. And if I don't get a part, or I'm not a part of something, it's nothing like wrong with me. And if there is things that don't fit, then it's up to me to be a better person to serve that. But you don't go to the core of yourself and say, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? I mean, it's just choices. It's timing. There's a lot more people. Everybody needs to have a chance. Diversity has broken things open, and so many of these young talents are getting a chance, which they should have anyway, to do and speak, and people can see them and their stories and relate to them more. That's what we have to do anyway. But I think the Muppets were way ahead of their time with what they were doing, And now in this new show, there's some parts that were added, and some of the women are having some really strong moments, especially Leslie Carrera Rudolph. It's just you're gonna knock your socks off, And it's that heart and love that we need to bring us into, come to the fire. There's room for you. We'll make the circle bigger if you come, and we hope you do. And if you don't, it's here for you. That's really important, and that's important for what I'm doing in my legacy, is that I hope to die with open arms, not like closed and wishing I had more, because I've been gifted with so many moments of love, and then remembrances and stuff that if they stumble upon it and I've made somebody laugh with what I've done, how wonderful. There's treasures to be found in the sand that I've left, and I didn't become Kermit. I didn't become a star. Marty Robinson did the second season of Cat in the Hat, and he was beautiful at it, but because I was, taken off of that show, I went to do Dr. Dolittle with Eddie Murphy, and that changed my life. So I was
just watching that the other night.
There you go. I was, for me personally, to be like told, but Brian said, I'm going to replace you. And I totally understood. It was not the right fit for me to be in New York, but yet it was my destiny to do, the characters that I did in Dr. Dolittle,
Do you find that kind of challenging? Because they're very much like realistic looking.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a fine line, to anthropomorphize characters and make I like that. I like that challenge, because you have to be rooted in reality, and then you have to take it up a bit. And that's what CG did so much better, honestly, in so many ways than puppets. Not early on, because we were the bridge technology for about a decade. So we did all these movies that, brought things to life with puppets, because the CG was too expensive and it was just getting online. And then when that changed, there was a time with HDPS, which was puppeteerable animation. And so I got really into that. I really love doing that too.
And for anyone who doesn't know what HDPS stands for, I think it's Henson Digital Performance System.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Okay.
And it was helped pioneer that, and that was a blast, And we were so way ahead of the curve that the business didn't understand that we could have done things cheaper, faster, and funnier. And we sold the heck out of it. We did so many demos for everybody. And, now it has a foothold, and it's doing some really wonderful things. And Lisa's doing wonderful things with preschool products and stuff. And I'm so glad that I was a part of that legacy. And then Dave Barkley and I, he created some beautiful equipment that we could do even more amazing things. So we ended up doing some facial stuff for Where the Wild Things Are, for Warner Brothers. And so really got to play with these systems. It's so much fun to give voice to especially animated characters. So if they ever did Dinosaurs again, I'd hope that there would be like a hybrid where you still can puppeteer and animate the faces, with people in mocap. And I just think there's many combinations that are used in games now, and beautifully so, that are bringing things so realistically. And now we're in the metaverse, so you can live anywhere you want with anybody you want these days, which is a phenomenal thing, as long as you're not ignoring responsibilities and leaving love on the table.
Responsibility, what's that?
What is responsibility? Good, that's a damn good question. You could talk about that for hours. What is it to different people? Who are we responsible for? I think first and foremost,
that's actually a pop punk song by a band called MXPX. Responsibility, what's that?
Exactly. To yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not loving yourself, if you don't find joy being with yourself and allowing yourself to process and breathe, start there, because then you can do it for others, and then you can do it for the world. But don't ignore what you didn't get, what you wish for, and make sure you can give yourself a hug, because that's first and foremost. If you can hug yourself, you can hug anyone.
Very nice.
So
I'm glad you brought up Dr. Dolittle and the Creature Shop stuff, because I did want to go into that topic. I think I talked to you about this once. One Creature Shop film that really has been a big part of my life, and also my first friend Rachel, a big part of her life as well, is Jack Frost.
Oh, Jack Frost. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I told you the story, and for you listeners out there, you might enjoy this story. When I was 10, my dad was coaching basketball at the time, and he would bring me with him to whatever high school he was coaching at. And there was a canteen in the front of the high school, and there was a TV there that was playing Jack Frost. And I basically it didn't have any sound. I think there was subtitles, but I spent the whole game watching Jack Frost on this very tiny 1999 TV. And I was very amused by it, so much so that now I have my own VHS copy of it. And yes, I do have a VCR. And,
wow.
Also, speaking of retro Christmas productions, to any of you listeners wondering, there are going to be some Christmas videos. Last year, I did Nostalgia Talk Christmas Bonus, where I talked about like obscure and nostalgic Christmas productions. There is going to be more of that. I am working on that. Maybe Jack Frost will be on that list.
Cool.
So stay tuned for that. That's it's a sad movie too. Like one time I watched it with my family. It is a very, very sad movie.
Yeah.
And you and Alan Troutman came on here last year, and he talked a little bit about doing Jack Frost with you. Can you talk a little bit about your experience doing that film?
Yeah, it was bittersweet and hard. It was a hard movie to do. Yeah. One of the first things we did, we went up to Truckee, and then we were on a snowcat at 8,000 feet. Mm-hmm. And Denise was, in the suit on a sled, mm-hmm. and Jeff Forbes from the Creature Shop and I were with the equipment and the controllers underneath a black tarp and the mm-hmm. back of a snowcat. We went from 8,000 feet to 6,000 feet in a blizzard. That was one of the first things we ever shot.
That's so chilling thinking about that movie in a blizzard.
It's chilling and a half.
Well, when you just think about the main plot point of that movie when it comes to blizzards.
Well, there you go. And
wow.
And the funny thing is, the computing power was, less than your phone was more powerful than, 10 times more powerful than what we had to deal with. So we had two machines up there. So, he's performing and he's, and then when we had to switch machines, and then switch between, So, we had to do it as fast as possible underneath the black tarp going downhill in a snowstorm. I mean, so there's something is, common sense wise, you just don't do. but we had to do that to start the movie off. So, went from there, and we went all sorts of places, and it was a hard movie to do. But
Yeah, I
if
bet
the movie,
emotions were pretty high.
yeah, it was a lot of factors in that movie, but it was a fantastic experience, and to do a Christmas movie like that.
Yeah.
There was a lot more high hopes in the beginning, especially. I mean, we didn't have the movie yet in the Creature Shop, so what we did was they created a beautiful prototype head. It was all liquid, but it wasn't attached to the back, so we just got it down to where the mouth and the eyes and everything was just beautiful, and I was just flying and ad-libbing, and it was wonderful. But we needed to show Warner Brothers because they weren't sure. So we took the head on a stand. We drove over to Warner Brothers. We got a room, in the executive suites. We stuck it right up there. I was facing it, and I just started singing Christmas carols. And then behind me, everybody in Warner Brothers in the building came by, and we just started singing together and laughing, and it was just this wonderful moment of just like, this is magic. Because had a lot of experience with animatronics, loved animatronics.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's like when you find something you're supposed to do. It was the workshops for Dinosaurs, and we went to the animatronic part because that's what it was all about. I made the cuts, up to that point, but I had a broken arm because a couple weeks earlier I was playing right field. It was a beautiful day. We're up 8-0, but here's a lazy fly ball in right field, and I dive for it. I roll on my hand. It was my glove hand. It was my left hand, thank God. But as I came up, it went, and both bones were broken.
Holy shoot!
Holy shoot, indeed. And my wife just taught me this breath of fire because I was going into shock. So I just started breathing. I thought, oh my God, I'm in shock, and I rushed to the hospital. And this doctor, he says, I could put pins in this, but if you let me just, move the bones with my hands, I could maybe avoid that for you. And I'm in pain, and I don't know. And I trusted him, Dr. Sisto, and he just had magical hands. Magical hands are pretty much the theme of all this, aren't they?
Yeah.
So he just kind of felt my bones and put everything back and put this, L-shaped cast. And that's how I went to the auditions for the biggest job of my life, with a broken arm and a sling.
Ouch.
So when I came to
it looks like it was on your right hand. Are you right?
I keep doing that. I know it's left-handed. It was here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But what happened was
I
got to the animatronic parts, and what did they have set up? The Ninja Turtle heads. And right before me is Michelangelo. The Michelangelo head in me. I saw this, and you go, that bolt of lightning, and you go, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I saw the controllers, and I couldn't get in because my cast was, all over my fingers. And I went to the bathroom, and I got some scissors, and I cut, so I can get my hand into the joystick. And I had my hand in the Waldo, and I started playing with this thing. And that, for me, it was just like, this was it. This was like my true, it was next to my wife, it was my true love. And my children.
I would hope so.
and a good bagel. Other than that, that was really what was more important to me at that moment, was playing with this amazing tool, the big one, they call it, that Jim created at the Creature Shop, and the geniuses of the Creature Shop. And there was no holding me back after that.
Now with Jack Frost, did you actually get to know Kelly Preston?
What a lovely person.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I met her once too.
Nice.
I don't remember her, but my godmother, who's actually production manager of the show that I'm working on, she was doing a movie. I didn't know she was in it, but an actor that I really like, Stephen Furst. Do you know who that is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was there, and she knew that I liked him from a Toy Story spinoff, actually. He was in a show called Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, which I loved when I was a kid. So I got to go and meet him, and Kelly Preston was there. I didn't remember who the hell she was. I had no idea that this lady next to me that was talking to us was in fact a celebrity. And then I think I saw her on TV, and my mom's like, "Oh, we've met her." I was like, "We did?"
Oh, how funny.
Yeah. And I think that was just right before I saw Jack Frost. Yeah, she I don't remember much of her, but
she was a lovely person. I think it was Julio was he was the DP, and they were a lovely couple. And we saw them at the restaurants once in a while and stuff. And
wasn't she married at the time to John Travolta?
She sure was. They were very much in love, and may she rest in peace too. I mean, she left way too soon too.
Yeah, I agree. Just speaking of the plot of Jack Frost, and for any of the listeners who don't know, I won't spoil too much of it, just in case I do end up doing a video about it. But I will say this: death is heavily involved in the movie.
It is. Yeah. It is, and also, you know, the idea that life goes on, and that there's an energy flow, and that nobody is actually gone. And I feel that, you know, I do. I mean, I felt that. I mentioned this online today, and I don't know if I should say it again, but I truly did feel it, James, I think Matt was singing, I think it was Bridge Over Troubled Water, but he was doing Floyd, and it was just, he sang a cappella, and I was right-handing at that moment.
I saw you,
and you liked it. I know.
Yeah.
I just felt, I went, oh my God.
I actually got,
I didn't want to look
teary.
over there.
Yeah.
I felt that, and I said, Matt, I think, you know, Jerry's watching. He's here, you know.
Was this after Jerry passed on?
Oh yeah, this was recently, you know, but I just felt that Jerry, you know, he was there at that moment where Matt, you know, had to sing a cappella on camera because whatever it was, the playback, it was just a better choice. And the beauty of that moment. And it was just a completion, and you could feel the energy, and it was just like that. It's energy, and it's the energy of life, that puppets, you know, it's like the tide coming in. It's like, you know, a set of waves, and you have the right surfboard, and that's what it feels like. It's like everybody surfs, everybody's up, everybody is riding together, you know. It can unify that way. And when that happens, and when the performer is just the vessel for the love before and after it, and the moment is just those moments, and if they're shared and you're there, you know, you're full of all the things, of all the reasons why we live, and why we want to go to the next moment, because that moment can happen at any moment, you know, when everybody's doing what they love to do, and what they maybe are put on the earth for. I feel a lot of that in the puppet world is true. You know, there's a lot of people who are supposed to be the characters they are, you know. You know,
I hear that. I've heard that before, yeah.
You know, you know, the people who have done the characters from Jim's and Frank's world, and the fact that they still are here, and the fact that we're still talking about things that your childhood, my childhood before me, incredible.
Yeah.
I
think that's the thing about this podcast too. It's just so eclectic with all the nostalgic topics, you know.
Yeah.
So another little film that I really like, and actually my sister and I were watching it last night that you were involved in, was Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Yay!
That movie is so funny. And he's showing me a little Looney Tunes sticker.
This is my seat back. This is at a set. You know this, that, you know, if you're lucky enough to get your name on a chair, and there's my name, you know, I mean, I was there, and I played all the characters, especially Daffy. You know?
Yeah, basically, because I saw a little behind the scenes thing. You puppeteered them so that way the actors would know what they were going to be looking at when it gets edited in animation.
Absolutely, that was an honor.
So basically, I'll starve. I'll have to eat envelope glue. Wait, a sushi bar, and goes into the fish tank and eats a fish. You know, you were doing that with a Daffy puppet, so that way. When Brendan Fraser grabs his neck and stretches Daffy like an accordion, there's Brendan Fraser right there.
Yeah, this is Monkey Bone. I got to be Brendan Fraser's backpack for 2 movies. I was his sidekick, and you know, he's a great friend that I haven't seen for so long and too long.
Yeah, and he's cool.
He's he's my brother. He's my big brother. He's so great. And it was so much fun.
I can tell he's like your brother, because when you had Daffy, he got to beat you up a lot.
And rightly so.
You know, I know the spy car because of
I'll get him.
Nothing like a spy car.
Yeah, exactly.
And punches him right in the face. I'm getting really tired of throwing you out of the car, I remember he says.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I had that. Dave Barkley made these rubber puppets, and they were, you know.
Oh, you made them. Okay,
to scale. Cool. Yeah, beautiful. So I would run around Warner Brothers, and there were tram tours and stuff. So I wait in the bushes with Daffy, and I'd run out and just smash him against the windshield. Like a cartoon. Say, what is wrong with you? Can you watch where you're going? And I would just talk to people. And they go, Daffy Duck's running around the lot as they imagine he would if you came to Hollywood and say, well, they must be there. So I kind of like made that happen. It was like so much fun in my off time. Yeah, and you know, just seconding and just doing the characters with Steve Martin and all the other actors, Jenna Elfman, and then Brendan. It was a fantasy. It was incredible. It was so much fun. And again, you know, I watched those characters. Bugs Bunny was the biggest, and Daffy were the biggest influences on my life. And
you also got to do Pepe Le Pew in it.
And I got to do his voice, and I nailed it the first time, you know?
Yeah.
It's spring, is it not? And I never could actually do any more than that in the studio. I tried.
Yeah.
Because Mel Blanc's voices, I know you're into voices. You know, he smoked and he had that beautiful lowercase. So when he did Tweety and stuff, it was, you know, he had this beautiful, it was that down there. Oh, rabbits! You know, so I've done the voices but I couldn't do it well enough, but it came down at the end to me and Joe Alasky, who, you know, may he rest in peace.
Yeah, Joe is great. Joe,
right?
Yeah, he was one of the first, I don't want to say celebrity, people in the media who I really, really admired that I knew that passed away. So I was pretty upset when he died.
Yeah.
And sadly, we just lost one of my very favorite people from Sesame Street not too long ago, Emilio Delgado.
Yep. Yeah.
That was a tough blow.
I was talking to Leslie about that. It was, she was too busy. She couldn't go to all the things she wanted to honor him.
Yeah,
our lives go on.
Yeah, I was in Vancouver when I heard about it, and I was just walking around the city, and I was like, I got to sit down. And I was going out to dinner that night with my dad. I was in Vancouver for my dad's work, and I
love Vancouver.
Cool city. But yeah, I was there with my dad, my mom, and somebody that my dad works with, and I finished eating, and I was like, I'm going back up to the hotel room. I just need to go back up. And yeah, and I think my parents stayed for the next hour. I just kind of went there and just thought, you know, because that was a tough blow.
These are people you were in your neighborhood.
I was just about to say that. Yeah,
life. It's true. It's so rare to have neighborhood and to have that safety and have that special place where, you know, the second you're there, you go, I'm home. And you know, it's worth fighting for, and it's worth honoring, it's worth keeping up with, and it's worth sharing. You know, that's why this is important to do, to be honest.
So let's wrap it up by talking about a TV project that you were a part of that gets brought up on this podcast a lot: The Adventures of Timmy the Tooth.
Yes.
I've had Kevin on this. I've had Kevin Carlson on the show. He was one of the first who came on. Alan Troutman, of course, Cheryl Blaylock, and now Bruce Lanoil. So what was that show like? Because I've watched a little bit of it, and
it was wonderful. My friends, well, Dina Fraboni and James Murray and Kevin Carlson got together and created this wonderful world of characters.
Absolutely.
And they got it made, and they got that incredible deal with Universal. And we just kind of, you know, we're all lucky to be cast and rally around our friends and have a really wonderful time. It was just a wonderful puppet show with great music and just joy and interesting characters and the right tone. And it was just playtime all the time. And, you know, I wish it had more of a primary run, you know. It was one of those projects that was, you know, meant for straight to video, but it needed some kind of, you know, broadcast because it was charming.
It absolutely had the feel of a Saturday morning TV show. Like when I watched it, this is very recently, when I watched it, I actually did feel like I was watching a Saturday morning TV show. Yeah.
It was old fashioned. This is what we all are used to. And it was no even explaining that. It was just bring the energy, bring the love, and do great puppeteering. And everybody rose to that. And what a group of people. And absolutely. Yeah. Christine Papalexis, she's another person you should have on. She's seen it all and done it all too. She's amazing. There's so many amazing puppeteers. Puppeteers and people coming up. You know, there's so many people who have so much juice and so much joy to give.
Yeah, like last summer, I just had my first ever time puppeteering on a show. It was a YouTube show, but I still got to do it. So that was
good
cool.
for you. But how did it feel? Was it fun?
It was. I did this kid show, Clue Kids. It's on YouTube. I can send you the link if you want me to.
Sure.
And my buddy, it's my buddy's animation studio. He's the animation director for the studio, and he invited me to join the show. And there was one episode he was doing a beaver puppet, and I was assisting him. And then he had to leave, but they still had to get some shots with the puppet. So I asked, "Can I do the puppet? Like, can I just wiggle it?" And so even if I didn't have any lines, I still screwed around with him for a bit and gave him a character. So
there you go. That's how it starts. You know?
Absolutely.
We play and screw around, and then sometimes we film it, and sometimes it gets seen, and sometimes we get to do it again.
Yeah.
And somebody says, "Put those toys down and get back to work," or "Go be an adult," and nobody listens to that anyway.
What's an adult? I've never heard of that before.
What is an adult? I know.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, I guess it puts it off. I guess that's why it's so fun to play with dolls and just goof around and hopefully make a living off of it. Wow. Yeah. What a bonus.
Yeah. Well, Bruce, thank you very much for coming on Nostalgia Talk. Is there anything else you'd like to say to wrap up?
That I highly recommend James. He's painless, and you'll never know that, and you walk out with a smile. That's what I say. So if you ever get called by this gentleman, thank your lucky stars and tell your story with love.
Thank you very much. So a big thanks to puppeteer, actor, voice actor, and maybe even a motivational speaker, Bruce Lanoil.
Thank you very much.
I'm serious. Yeah. And to all you listeners out there, hope you enjoyed. I will see you on the next Nostalgia Talk. Peace.
Peace out.